has started. Duda, must-win situation. Does he have chances?
White's king. It's pretty safe in the centre right now, but if you want to get any action going on one of the flanks, you need to commit it. And, okay, Duda, that is not a move he would have played happily. That's a really reluctant rook shift from Duda. He's brought his rook across simply to defend a pawn. Quite likely you will be able to attack later on. So, for example, you will get... Well, me and my arrows, you will get some pawn storms going. And, OK, Magnus actually played the move that I predicted. He did trade the knights, and then after this happened, he's pushed forward in the middle.
Yeah, and it's going to be vulnerable, actually, for the rest of his days to push forward with his pawn. OK, well...
Your move from earlier, Jovanka.
Yeah, but better timed, let's put it that way.
Yeah, so Black's rook now is attacking the pawn next to it, that white central pawn. You have to defend it.
Yeah, you have
surely
to step forward with your pawn.
But Magnus is... OK, the pawn does protect its fellow.
And we've got the idea.
OK.
It was actually to come forward with the queen to the h4 square.
I mean, maybe you can try and run away with white.
OK, David.
This is on the board, actually.
It's on the board, OK. Do you think he's seen this counter-strike of moving the pawn to e3?
Let's keep an eye on the players as well, because it feels like this... I mean, the evaluation bar's just gone over. That pretty much confirms our suspicion.
Yep.
That, and Magnus is frowning as well, that this pawn push for Black, not moving the rook that's attacked, not running away from this threat, but instead counter-attacking, it's strong for Black.
OK.
Oh, he doesn't find it, Magnus.
No. But still, this is OK, actually.
This is strong as well.
It's
OK.
still OK.
It looks so counterintuitive. It felt like that was a knockout blow. He does step back with his rook.
I quickly realised that I emailed strategy and smack talk. Oh, no. That's bad. Directly to the other side. Oh, my God, I can't believe that. Grovel, grovel, grovel. OK, we have some moves on the board. The king sidestep. It ran to the right.
You don't like it?
I don't like it because instinctively it feels like the danger is brewing there.
The danger is brewing there. Look at all of Magnus's pieces. They've slowly gravitated towards the centre, towards that right side. And Kaya, he's let that e-pawn go. Elsa has gone. And Magnus is... Yeah, Magnus sacrificing a pawn, but look at this, the Black Knight now jumping into the position, hitting the White Queen. That Black Knight, if it gets captured, that's a really beautiful motif. If you take off the Black Knight now with the White Bishop, then the Black Queen recaptures and actually attacks both rooks at the same time. That's so rare to see two rooks attacked. Maybe we could show this, it's just too beautiful.
That is beautiful.
In this position right now, Duda is in huge trouble. Let's keep an eye on the players as well, because if he does eliminate this really strong knight, which he couldn't do actually here, if he does take it off, then look at this double attack.
Capture the pawn or push forward with his pawn. OK.
It's more natural to push forward, maybe.
I think so. F for forward, after all. OK.
I was just looking at, Lenya Dominguez and Artemiev game 3. The bar has woken up in that one.
Duda shaking his head. He's just played... It was maybe a necessary move, but it's an ugly move. Look at this last white pawn push and talk to that white light-squared bishop. That white light-squared bishop, it's dead. It's dead and buried behind its own pawns. And now Black's rerouting his bishop. He's just saying, OK, you've got a bad piece. Look how good mine is going to become.
OK, so that's why Duda steps back with his queen out of the eye line of the light-squared bishop.
Meanwhile, Magnus has grabbed a pawn. I'm slightly surprised he went for it. That pawn was up for grabs any time he wanted, but he takes it now with the Black Knight, so that Black Knight is supported by its bishop and by its queen, so it could not be taken there. And Duda, he's trying to seek solace in an endgame, potentially, trying to offer this trade of queens and say, OK, I'm still going to go for the white king later on.
I would be tempted to take the queens off the board and then retreat the knight and say, OK, you are the one that needs to win, not me.
Yeah, and he's followed your advice there, Jovanka.
Yeah.
Black's knight going back, so Black's a pawn up, and White is still stuck with this terrible light-squared bishop.
Maybe there's chances to breathe life into the position again. OK, so...
Magnus attacks White's rook, first of all, so that rook does shift up one square. And now I expect Magnus to, again, move that light-squared bishop, because, as Jovanka mentioned, White's rook on the side there, it is threatening the Black f4 pawn. That pawn under fire. Resourcefulness is the key here. Again, the bishop goes back where it came from, so Magnus making a bit of a gesture there. He knows the last couple of moves haven't been great for him. He's just stacking up his rooks, defending his extra pawn now. But Duda's manoeuvring well. Duda's going to retreat the dark-squared bishop at some point, then maybe aim to put both of the white rooks on the fourth rank, connect them and kind of aim against Black's f4 pawn, that intruder into his half.
And to the e3 square, and then start targeting some pawns.
Yeah, so now the black knight does step back. Duda slightly shaking his head again. He knows it's desperate times. That black knight is probably going to retreat back next to the black king and then come out again, and it's just going to dance around.
To tie breaks.
Wow, I just took a peek over. He's completely winning as well.
Oh.
It's not even that difficult. So Artemiev should take the lead now with 1 game to go. Okay, meanwhile, black's knight does relocate itself backwards.
And the knight comes out to defend a pawn and attack the rook. Rook steps backwards and...
Yeah, black's knight can move again right now. Black's king can move.
The rook can also move.
Yeah.
A king can move.
Yeah. So white's bishop stepping back. He's just trying to keep black honest now, tying down black to that f4 pawn. So white's bishop, dark square bishop, and white's rook, just attacking it. But Magnus over-defends everything.
I mean, have we reached some kind of deadlock? Like if Magnus, I don't know why I'm struggling with his name today. If Magnus just does nothing.
He can, but he can also just move the black knight and then start pushing his pawns forward. Black's pawns now, his extra pawns, they're going to become a huge factor. How do you stop black's pawns rolling forward? Especially, I'm looking at the pawn next to the black king, the g pawn. Throw that down the board, then support it, then throw the other pawn down the board. Harry, the h pawn's going to start marching.
OK.
OK, Duda's trying to play on the opposite flank.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So his idea is actually to break through on the left side, push his b pawn 1 square forward.
Takes an eternity, though, that's the issue. That's the only hope for Duda if he wants to win this game.
Yeah.
Push a pawn on that left side, open things up. But actually, maybe that just loses material immediately if white does this.
OK, he's done it.
He has to take the risk.
Bishop takes pawn, and now the rook just comes over and swings itself across to the left side. And now pawn takes pawn. Really didn't have a chance.
Yeah.
OK, and pawn takes pawn.
OK, look at Magnus. He's pretty relaxed right now. He knows it's under control.
He's really chill about it. Rook takes rook. Bishop takes rook.
A set of trades. And now white, yeah, this is the killer, I think, this last move. Hitting that white rook. If that white rook leaves the 4th row, then the pawn actually drops. So black's knight is getting ready to take a pawn. And if you capture this last pawn push, so black's pushed 2 squares, you can take it en passant, as if it just moved 1 square. So white's pawn on d5 can just take that black pawn off the board on the side. And there we see en passant, the pawns disappear, and a double attack. White's rook has to defend its bishop. But now Magnus, he can just attack that rook if he wants to. He can take that bishop off the board. He does attack that rook.
He does it.
OK, he's just going to be a pawn up. He's not even trying to win, Magnus. He probably will win if he wants to. He's a nice pawn up with a superior minor piece. The knight much better than white's bishop. Yeah, it's all in black's favour here. OK, the white bishop moves. If Magnus really wants to secure the draw, he can just take it. But he probably doesn't want to. He probably wants to...
No, I mean, it's much more attractive to move with a rook and threaten checkmate. OK, so this is why Duda's king runs away, king steps forward, and now he captures the bishop. And this is efficient and clinical stuff from Magnus.
Yep, he's now 2 pawns up, Magnus, after this trade, and the black rook now is heading back to defend its king.
Against Leonid Dominguez, and that means Leonid Dominguez, he has to win the next game. Game 4 to take it to tie breaks. A draw or a win for Artemiev, he will be ready for semi-finals.
White is actually threatening something, but it's only a draw. White's rook is threatening to go up and check the black king, and actually black's king can't escape. It's just going to be check, 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 check forever. But OK, now Magnus retreating with the black rook has guarded this 8th rank, so no more checks.
Will he resign? Will Magnus offer a draw just because that's all he needs? How will this end?
Maybe Duda should be sneaky enough for the draw, and just for his stats across the tournament, across the whole tour. But he knows this is the end of his chances in the quarterfinals.
Yeah, and
Magnus has guarded everything. OK.
I know another former. Well, obviously Magnus is the world champion, but I do know that there was a former world champion that was obsessed with drinking milk.
Requires some workouts as well, I think.
Yeah. And Bobby was also famous for that, of course, the workouts. And OK, so Magnus, he's just giving up some of his pawns, but he's banking everything on this one runner, this G-pawn. More pride as well. Between these two, they might be rivals for years to come. And Magnus, he's really putting the boot in. He's saying, OK, I'm going to get the wins against you to make up for the World Cup exit.
And those pawns are coming.
Yeah.
So, OK, maybe the white king can step backwards.
The white king has to step backwards to attack those pawns.
And maybe it will finish in a draw, David.
You think so?
No.
Okay. Maybe.
Change my mind. No way.
Unfortunately, those 2 pawns, they're protected, they're guarded, and it's not easy to break through, actually. Duda's defended like a lion in this game, I must say. I've written him off a few times. I've said no chance of holding the draw, but it's still not over. I think black has a few ways of winning here. So firstly, if there's a check to the black king can actually continue its journey into the position. But if the rook goes behind, then this is what I was going to say. Once the white rook leaves the first rank, black has the freedom to activate his rook, and white's king will never be able to move now. Simple plan is to bring the black rook to the bottom row and then make a new queen. Oh, wow, nice. OK, he brings his king to this line.
OK, this is very nice. I mean, you're right. There's not going to be a draw at all.
It will come in useful all the time. And, OK, we won't see that yet, but we will in a moment. OK, we might see it.
We're going to see it now.
We're actually going to see resignation from Duda. He knows that once the king sidesteps, the black king will help his extra pawn promote, and Magnus is through to the semi-finals.
Yeah, it's all over. And after 3 games today as well, Magnus Carlsen, with a dominant performance, is ready for the semi-finals.